Das gehört zu den Heilige Schuss, wurde in Los nach Chassidus la Kabbalah, zu Klipa Snege, war das in Jura, Steva ist in der Ruf, da sein der Rede, man soll Matzel sein, und Meile sein, dem Steve, und wir sollen nicht zulassen zum Rat, fast kein Schlittung im Scholler.
The Rebbe said, the music of today is basing itself on breaking all of the limits, especially in tzniut. And it tells you can do whatever you want. No one will tell you what to do. The Rebbe finished up that concert in the Chabad house, in universities for youth, are necessary, etc., few times a year in each of them. We happened to be able to have a nice influence on the crowd.
We talked with Piamenta about his life as a religious rocker. His songs are sung in Hebrew. And the lyrics are passages lifted from the Torah, his guide through life.
I keep Sabbath, I pray 3 times a day, and I eat kosher. I do my best to keep the law of the Torah.
אז ירהיק תוני למוני שולחנורה שביתי עברי ונגדי תוני דזר בית דזר בפינטר לרן דלבש. Is auf der Dämmel kommen sich zu der weiterdicke Simon in diesen Sinnen von Bechol der Chefa der Ehul, is auf Dämmel wird sie nämlich kuhim der Abstoche der Hu, je Jasher Chestecho, also soll ich nicht in seine Techis und der Schoris bin Iluo, farbrengen Dvar Hashem b'chol mokim sheyodei mazar.
This production is made possible through the generosity of the members of the GEM Foundation.
The Rebbe vocally and repeatedly called for every individual to utilize his or her unique talents to promote godliness in the world. At his Purim Farbrengen in 1973, with award-winning author Chaim Patak in the audience, the Rebbe offers a reminder about the weighty God-given responsibility a writer carries upon his shoulders.
Der, wo der Ewigste hat ihm gegeben, eine Möglichkeit, soll können schreiben in der Zeitung. Ist mich stark, hat ihm gegeben in Zeitung, soll schreiben, nice, was tut sich in Milchome, was sie da in Katzvitev. Aber das ist mehr nicht der reiswenigste Lewusch, ein reiswenigste Scholach, durch welche soll können ausnutzen seine Möglichkeiten auf versprechen Niedigkeit. Da versuchen Weg, bis beschreiben, was tut sich in der Milchome, sondern von dort in der Mini von Aschgocha Platz. Was weiß, das für sich, der hat eine Möglichkeit beeinflussen. Alle Lehner von der Zeitung ist gamere nicht jetzt, das, was begnügen sich mit sich und mit seinen Bnei. Weil der sehe, wie der Wort von dem Rebbe, dem Nossi beschämpfen zu Machzedek. Als Sache, was wird auch gedruckt, das auf Deile ist. Und der, was hat a Kischrin, der Eibischer hat ihm gegeben, a Kischrin und a Möglichkeit auf Schreiben a Buch. I was es soll nicht sein, der Cover von dem Buch. Nicht nur der Jacket und der Cover, der eiswenigste. Was es soll nicht sein, der eiswenigste Inhalt von dem Buch, darf das gerechen zu dem Lehner, a der Lehner soll der Film, a jesch Balabais lebira zu. Als sie da Balabos in der wilder Welt. Am Kita guck auf der Welt, schreit mis a Dschungel. Sie nicht da kol in Joni, was einen Hepech a Seichel, sie gewältigen Sachen mit Menschen, was fühlen sich auf a wilden Neffen. Wo setzt man den Balabos von der Balabatischkeit, von dem Palle? A der Eibischter hat ihm geheißen, schreiben ein Buch und gegeben eine Möglichkeit und hat ihm zugestellt, einen, was abdrücken dem Buch. Ist was soll nicht erzählen dort in Bichizeni ist. Es wenig, der innewenig darf sein, an Nordru wie der Lehner, der Durchlehner, ein Teil von dem Buch. Allahs wir kamen dem ganzen Buch, darf wege mit der Überzeugung, an nicht gucken, die Kassidona Aroni, was meinen, die Welt ist ohne Balabos, ohne Balabatischkeit, wie ich, Kola, Yosher, Beinov, Yasser. Wer sich starker oder Menazeich sein, ist das mehr nicht wie eben Nufik, aber Sof kol Sof ist Menazeich, Zedek und Jesher und Teif. Und wenn er geht zu Jiden, ist Menazeich Jiddischkeit. Und auch das, was teilt, als fühlt sich, wie sie darf zu sein. Und gelebt in dem Ebersten. Und beeinflusst die, mit welcher rät, als soll nicht leben, Tovel auf Brochet, der Massel gewähren als Sach Menschen und als Sach Jiden. Das aber im Ganzen nicht genug. Eber hat Chur und Karpas und Scheles und Bücher und mehr wie ein Buch und dann kamen Sprachen und das wird verkehrt bekam und bekäme es, wo noch sie der Greg zu kommt und der Buch darf in dem Buch sein hereingestellt, am Maskone. An Nordru, wie wir durchlehnen, das Buch wird nicht bleiben, kein Sofik bei dem Lehner, als sie da an Eberster, was viel tun mit der Welt. Und gibt Achtung auf jeder Menschen und auf jeder Rieden, was mit dem tut sich. Und dem Ebersten in der Gehe, sie oder der Ried legt viel. Und sie oder der Ried fühlt sich, wie ein Ried darf sich fühlen. Und unter Dämmelt, der Esterburg geht, als Matzlich in der Zweiten und in der Dritten, bis wann es wird, Ketel, Levi, Melech, Bajoin, als wird gut auf dem Herzen mit der Nemeser Gutskeit und unter Dämmelt geht Mechail El-Choil in der Weiterdecke, der tiefere Spoe und in der Neffen von Meilen Bakedisch als Meller und als Breiter und als Tiefer. Der Koomuro, das ist eine von der Erklärungen, wie alle Unionen in Torah, ist ein Seif zu Torah, ist ein Seif zu der Pirushim. Und der Emosim von Torah, eine von der Erklärungen, was man nennt, von der genauen Beschreibung mit allen Protein, was sie Achashverisch hat geheißen, Praven Amishte, 180 Tage noch an. Und hat geheißen, machen hat der Mischte mit der größten Reichkeit, mit der größten Sture. Und erst noch dem hat gekonnt sein, Ketel Levi Melech Bajoin. Erst noch dem ist ihm geworden gut auf dem Herzen. Beko Omur, das, was mir erzählt hat, Amado, das ist bei nicht genieden, Allahs Kama, das darf sein bei Jiden, wenn geht durchführen, dem ewigsten Zerschliches. Und jeder sagt, was Jid tut, ist der Tachlis, was soll sein, als Schliach von dem ewigsten, beloschen Hayedur, lass es Leis Borech, Dira betachtenim, mit tun, wie so kann der Griechen sein Spor. Seine Wirkung soll dort der gerecht werden, die Idee, der Wissen, als sie da an Eberster, was viel tun mit der Welt, mit allen ihren Protein und nehmen die Gehe, die Aufführung von jeder Menschen, und von jeder Rieden befragt, und durch den Ruf wird der Schreiber und der Madre Chruchni, und der, was macht den $2 Millionen nicht weniger als Kino Hakosche, warum kann das machen, und der, was das schaffen, 1 Million, macht die Million Vechulu, stellen sie alle zusammen, die, wie gerät früher, der Gildene Kate, von Jetschnei am Echod, und mir geht nach Heil el Choil, bis wann et a Schome heiler bechol a Medinis, in alle Medinis der Hetmen wegen ihm und mit der Wissach wegen ihm, und mir bringt sich mit ihm, und das wird getan in einem Leben von Eiro, Simcho, Vesosein, wie Iko. L'chaim.
With materials from the Living Archive, established by the Rohr Family Foundation.
Video collection preserved by Benjamin Federman in tribute to his parents.
Okay, good vach. Nachman, are you on the thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Is everything working properly?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay, great. I hear a lot of background noise. Okay. All right, good vach. Sorry about that. One. This Shabbos, we had with us Rabbi Wolshansky from Morristown, and he shared something incredible about this Shabbos. It was in 1991, 30 years ago, when the Rebbe gave one of the most famous talks about the centricity of our generation in history, and how the Jewish people have a prophet, and how the Rebbe spoke about his father-in-law having the power of prophecy, and arguably the Rebbe also alluded to himself as having nevuah, having prophecy, and how our generation will see the coming of Mashiach. A very clear message. So he said that this farbrengen, every farbrengen, was delivered on Shabbos afternoon. After Shabbos, Rabbi Weinberg, all shalom, would have a radio show, and in his radio show he would relay something from the farbrengen. So he said that Rabbi Weinberg delivered the Rebbe's talks with a lot of passion, but this was unusual. Nachman, you on?
Yes. Yes,
A lot of background noise. All right. Anyway, so happens is that Rabbi Weinberg, although he was ordinarily very very calm, this time he gave over the Rebbe's farbrengen. He said something I never thought I would ever see happen in my life happen to this farbrengen. He said, I'll tell you why. Rabbi Weinberg would travel often throughout the world to collect funds for the yeshiva of Lubavitch in New York and other missions that the Rebbe gave him to travel throughout the world. And one of his places that he would visit often was Brazil. Whenever he visited anywhere, he would always go into the Rebbe and give the Rebbe a report about what had happened in the various places he visited. And he said that when he visited Brazil, there was a couple that was very hospitable to him, and they made his stay really pleasant. And when he told the Rebbe about his trip, he mentioned this couple to the Rebbe, and they were so kind to him, and they helped him. And also he mentioned to the Rebbe that unfortunately this couple does not have any children yet, and wants to ask the Rebbe for a bracha for children. So the Rebbe said, I don't know the exact words there, but the Rebbe like acknowledged, yes, they'll have a bracha for children. So then he told the Rebbe, that does that mean that I could tell them that this year they'll have a child? So they responded with the words, "Am I a prophet? Are you saying that I'm a prophet?" Because that was referring to how when Eliyahu Navi, Elisha promised the Isha Shunamis that she'll have a child, they said, next year at this time you'll have a child. So the Rebbe asked Rabbi Weinberg, are you saying that I am a Navi, I'm a prophet? So Rabbi Weinberg didn't respond. But when he left the Rebbe's room, he wrote a note to the Rebbe and he wrote the following. He said, one of the very first farbrengens that the Rebbe gave after the passing of the previous Rebbe, the Rebbe spoke about lettered Chaf Beis in Tanya, in chapter 22, in the letters of the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe in the back of Tanya. The Alter Rebbe tells Chassidim that they should not ask the Alter Rebbe questions about physical things, about mundane things. And not because he doesn't want to answer these kinds of questions, but he said it never happened in history that people would ask a rabbi about mundane things. He said only prophets could be consulted about physical phenomena. For example, it says in the Torah about Shaul that he lost the donkeys of his father, and he went and he asked a Navi, asked a prophet of Hashem where the donkeys were. Only a prophet of Hashem could determine what the story is on a physical plane. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe says you can't ask me any more questions about mundane things, because this is something that only a prophet, only a Navi Hashem, only a prophet of Hashem could answer. So that's what he writes in Tanya. But the Rebbe said the Alter Rebbe continued to answer questions of people about physical things after saying that only a prophet could answer these things. The Alter Rebbe Chassidim kept on asking, and not just the Alter Rebbe, but also the Mittler Rebbe. And the Rebbe said it continued every single year, every single month, and every single week, and every single day. Chassidim continued to maintain asking questions about physical phenomena. So the way Rabbi Wolshansky quoted Rabbi Weinberg is, I don't think it's the way that this farbrengen is printed, but the way he quoted Rabbi Weinberg, as the way Weinberg delivered the farbrengen was, so why is it that the Alter Rebbe said that they shouldn't ask him because only prophets could answer these kinds of questions? So the reason is, said Rabbi Weinberg, is because the Alter Rebbe wanted Chassidim to realize who they are listening to, who they're talking to. That, in other words, that the Alter Rebbe is indeed a prophet of Hashem. So Rabbi Weinberg said that based on his conversation with the Rebbe, he thought that the Rebbe would never ever hint to the fact that he has the ability to see things in the future, that he is indeed a prophet of Hashem, even though it's something which is famous, but the Rebbe will never actually hint that about himself. But he said, this farbrengen, in 1991, in Parsha Shoftim, not only did the Rebbe say this about his father-in-law, but he clearly alluded to his own ability to see the future and how our generation is a generation of Gula. Then Rabbi Weinberg added, and this, right before he gave this radio show, he said, I brought the boy that was born to this Brazilian couple to the Rebbe to get a blessing before his marriage. So indeed, he was correct in saying that the Rebbe's words are prophetic, and they indeed, right after the Rebbe gave them this blessing, they were blessed right away that year with a child. It's the first I wanted to share. Also want to share with you another story, not connected to this story, but also connected to the power of a tzaddik and the power of our Rebbe to see the future and to see all over the world. This story is about the kaver, about the oil, the resting place of the Rebbe's father. There were two brothers who were instructed by the Rebbe to go visit the resting place of his father, Rabbi Shalom Ber Grelik V'Shalom and Rev Mordechai Menashe Grelik. And they had received a exit visa from Russia, and before they before that, they had gone to leaving Russia. Before they went to visit the resting place of their Rebbe's father in Alma-Ata in Kazakhstan. They were joined by their cousin, Rabbi Chaim Eliezer Vilenkin, who loves to take pictures. And they went there and they davened to be able to leave Russia. And they took all these pictures. And when they left Russia and they arrived in America after Simchas Torah and Tafshel Lamed Beis in 1972, so Mordechai Gerelik went into the Rebbe's room for a private audience. And the Rebbe, he showed the Rebbe the pictures of his father's grave. And the Rebbe took a great interest in these pictures and asked many questions. For example, one of the questions the Rebbe asked was, who was buried next to the Rebbe's father? When the Rebbe's father was buried, there were 6 burial plots that Chassidim purchased next to the Rebbe's father, and to ensure that no non-Jews would be buried there, because the Rebbe's father was buried in a non-Jewish cemetery, but in an area where there were other a Jewish area within a non-Jewish cemetery. So they purchased these burial plots. That was asking who was buried on the right, who was buried on the left. And most of the questions that the Rebbe asked, they didn't know how to respond. They didn't know what they should do about it. And then the Rebbe looked out the window. And Chassidim say in general, when the Rebbe looks out the window, it's like, of course, the Rebbe is a tzaddik and the Rebbe is a navi. He has prophecy, but specifically, when the Rebbe looks out the window, it means something. The Rebbe looked out the window, and the Rebbe said, "What do you think?" He asked Rabbi Gerelik, "What do you think about moving his father's remains to here, to Brooklyn, moving from Alma-Ata to here?" And the Rebbe asked, maybe perhaps there could be some kind of international effort to do this. And Rabbi Gerelik doesn't answer. The Rebbe is speaking about something which he has no knowledge about. And then the Rebbe, after a few seconds, Rabbi Gerelik felt that the Rebbe was somewhere else. When the Rebbe was asking this question, he's somewhere else. And then the Rebbe concluded and said, "Nuzal bleiben azeh," and very decisively, it should stay the way it is. In other words, that his father's remains should remain in Alma-Ata. And then the Rebbe gave him a string of instructions that he should tell his father, Menachem Mendel Gerelik, about what to do with his father's remains. First of all, the Rebbe wanted to switch the old matzeva for a new matzeva, the old monument for a new one. The Rebbe wanted that they should keep the same wording of the matzeva, except for one word, which wasn't so clear on the monument. And the letters should be beautiful. There should be clear letters. And the letter Nun, in one of the titles of the Rebbe's father in the monument, is Hagoin, the genius. And the letter Nun, and the word the genius, isn't so long. They wanted the letter Nun to be longer. And also that the Magen David, which was on the Star of David, which was on the first matzeva, should also be on the new matzeva. So most of the instructions that Rebbe gave were pretty easy to do, but there's one instruction that really made everything very, very hard. The last instruction was that the one who makes this new monument for his father's resting place should be someone who keeps Torah mitzvahs and keeps Shabbos. So how are they going to find someone like that? Mendel Gerelik had a really hard time. He got his son he had a 24-minute audience with the Rebbe, which was unusual at that time, and he wrote down everything. And through Rabbi Gershon Ber Jacobson, he was able to send this message to his father, and his father was able to do all the instructions. weren't going to be an issue, but how is he going to find a guy who keeps the Torah, who is observant, keeps Shabbos, who knows how to engrave a monument? So he looked in various cities. He looked in Tashkent. Also, one more thing that Rebbe said is that not to spare any money. Everyone wants to give all the money possible that's needed to make this is very important. They shouldn't spare any expense to make this possible. So he couldn't find anybody to do this, and he also asked the Rebbe what to do. Like, he can't find anybody. He asked the second question was, what should we do with the old monument? And no answer came from the Rebbe, but however, you found out that there was someone who was religious and knew something about making monuments. The man's name was Rabbi Gavriel Okanov. Rabbi Gavriel Okanov's father was someone who made monuments. Rav Garil himself, he was more preoccupied in writing tefillin and mezuzahs and sefer Torah, but he knew something about it because of his father. His father was an engraver, but his father died when he was 10. So he didn't really know too much about making monuments. And he wasn't the Chabad chassid himself, but he was very close with he had a neighbor who was a Chabad chassid, and he knew a little bit about Chabad history, and he knew what a Rebbe is and how this is important, and how the Rebbe wants a Jewish person who was religious to make the monument. So the problem was that he had a heart attack shortly before this, and he was bedridden. He was in his 40s, but he was bedridden. He was really unable physically to do this, besides the fact that he had very little knowledge of how to make a monument. But Rabbi Gorelik pressed him, and he said to him, listen, this is something that will give you a bracha to get better. If you do this for the Rebbe, this is something that's important to the Rebbe, I'm telling you this is going to bring you a refuah shlema. So he tried to do it. He said, listen, I'm going to do this in the course of a week. I'm going to come to you, and I'm going to try to use the tools and try to make the monument. I'll do 1 or 2 lines at a time. Rabbi Gorelik didn't get this instruction from the Rebbe, but he felt that it would also be a good idea to go to the mikveh before working on the monument. So he took a taxi every day. He picked up Rabbi Okanov he's bedridden, takes him from his bed, and he brings him to a secret mikveh that they had in their home. And then he would work on the monument. And every day he did a line. After the first day, he couldn't come back. He had to just go back to the bed for a whole day. Then he came back again. He did another line. He went to the mikveh, he did another line. And then he went back to, they can hear you, by the way. And then he went back to bed. Every day he's doing a line and going back to bed. And after a week, he said that every time he went to the mikveh, he felt a different level of energy. He felt rejuvenated. Every time he went to the mikveh, he felt new strength. And after finishing the entire monument, he had a completely miraculous refuah shlema. He became 100% better after he made this. It was an open and clear miracle, something that couldn't be explained. He lived another 35 years after this event. He passed away at the age of 82, and it was clearly this merit that kept him alive. Many years later, he went to a doctor, and with his daughter, and the doctor examined his heart, and the doctor said to the daughter, "Your father does not have a heart. It's impossible that he is alive." And his daughter fainted on the spot.
Shavuot.
Yeah.
Able to mute anybody who's not speaking?
Yeah.
Anyway, so his daughter fainted on the spot because the doctor said, "I don't know how your father's alive." It was clearly the Rebbe's blessing and his participation in doing this for the Rebbe's father's matzeva that kept him alive. So getting back to this matzeva, getting back to the monument. So Rabbi Okanov finished the job, and they brought the monument to the Rebbe's father's gravesite, to Alma-Ata, and they didn't really know what to do with the old monument because they didn't get any answer from the Rebbe. But they decided they're going to grind it up and put it on the gravesite of the Rebbe's father. It's very surprisingly, when Rabbi Gorelik eventually left Russia, he spoke to Rabbi Jacobson. When Rabbi Okanov left Russia, they found out that the Rebbe had said, when Rabbi Gorelik had asked, "What should we do? We can't find anyone who is religious to do this." The Rebbe had responded, "Yagaitem utzasatam," and if you make an effort, you'll find the way to do it. And regarding what to do with the old monument, Rebbe's instructions, although they didn't receive it, was to take the old monument and put the old monument in the gravesite, as they had indeed done. So it was amazing that they somehow got the message without getting the message. Anyway, so Rabbi Okanov, he attributed his gesund, his health, of course, to his participation in this holy task. And years later, he visited the Rebbe in 1983. The reason he came to the Rebbe that year specifically was because it was specific because he was a little bit upset. What happened was like this. His son, Eliyahu Chaim, Rabbi Okanav's son, Eliyahu Chaim, was engaged to a woman who was the daughter of Aryan Yaza from Shikun Chabad. And throughout the time that Rav Gariel Okanav was in Russia, he always would consult this Kabbalist in Israel. And he asked the Kabbalist for a blessing for the Shidduch. And the Kabbalist said that it's not a good idea. So this Kabbalist said not a good idea. And so they asked the Rebbe what to do. And the Rebbe said that if certainly they've decided together this is what they want to do, and they should found their home together according to Torah and mitzvahs. In other words, they would give a blessing to go ahead, despite the fact that this Kabbalist said that they shouldn't. And a year passed after they got married. They didn't have any children. Another year passed, and a third year passed. They don't have any children. So Rabbi Gambriel felt that the reason why they weren't being blessed with children was because of this Kabbalist being upset at them for not listening to his advice. And therefore, he decided that he needs to travel to the Rebbe to speak to the Rebbe about what's going on. And he came to New York in 1983 for Rosh Hashanah. And he came to the Rebbe. He stood outside 770. Avram, it's a little loud. So he stood outside 770 on Tom Gedalia. And he came and walked over to the Rebbe. And he introduced himself. I'm Gedalia Okanav. I was the one who made your father's monument. And the Rebbe warmly thanked him, and he told the Rebbe he wants I forgot to mention that when Rabbi Garela came out of Russia, the Rebbe said to him, "Whatever you have done for Jews in Russia, physically, spiritually, God will pay you. But for what you've done for my father, for the nachas ruach, for the pleasure you've given me, I want to give you my personal thanks. And also, please," the Rebbe said, "I want to ask you, and please don't leave me empty-handed. Though this Matzeva, this monument, is something that I'm obligated to do because of the honor for my father. So please tell me the exact amount of what I should pay for this Matzeva, what it cost you, so I could be able to do this." So he told the Rebbe it cost him 350 rubles, and the Rebbe gave him 3 times 18 American dollars for the cost of the Matzeva. Anyways, getting back to Rabbi Okanav, real Okanav. So he told the Rebbe that he wants a bracha for his son to have a child, and the Rebbe responded, "Go back to Israel, and everything will be okay." Apparently, Rabbi Okanav couldn't understand what the Rebbe was saying. It didn't make sense to him. Go back to Israel, things will be okay. What are you saying? And the whole month of Tishrei, he was in New York. He was confused. What did the Rebbe mean? And he kept on. And he visited 770 several times, and the Rebbe showed him a lot of closeness that entire period while he was in 770 for that month of Tishrei, and he felt that the Rebbe is giving him special appreciation for what he had done for the Rebbe's father. Anyways, he comes back to Israel and he discovers that his daughter-in-law was already pregnant. So that's what it meant, apparently, go back to Israel and things will be okay. And actually, it's interesting that many of the children, the family had Baruch Hashem blessed with many children. And I think the 4 of their children they have 8 children, and 4 of them were born in the month of Av, and the family feels it was the merit of the Rebbe's father, who was Yartes and Chafav, that they they were blessed with children. And his bottom line is, as we read in this week's Haftarah, Chosav Havayas Re'ah Kodshay, Hashem bared his holy arm. That's the words of the Haftarah. And Chassidus explains that Hashem revealing his arm, so to speak, means Hashem giving the world the neshamas, the souls of tzaddikim, like the Baal Shem Tov and the Magen and the tzaddikim of every generation. So by connecting to the tzaddik and doing things in honor and for the sake of the tzaddik, it's not just something that you do for the tzaddik, but something which brings direct blessings to ourselves and our families for all good, And the main thing is that we have to pay attention to the Rebbe's words about the centricity of our generation history, that this is absolutely, with the words of prophecy, generation of the last generation of exile, first generation of redemption, and we got to get ready for it to happen. Take via mamish. A good Tavach, Surah Davis.
Good Tavach. Thank you.
A good Tavach.
A good Tavach.
Rabbi, where did you came the story from? Rabbi Levin?
I think the rabbi has left.
So where did the rabbi take the story, if I may ask? Did he say?
He didn't tell us.
Thank you,
This is
Beryl.
being broadcast onto Facebook